Well, good Monday morning to you, and welcome to our Monday morning live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy. I'm Jim Tabor, along with Doctors Jim and Janine Fox of Doctors Nutrition, located on Callan Road in Gulfport, just south of Pass Road. Everybody had a great weekend.
Yes, we did.
Like this little cold front coming through here.
That was kind of nice.
Yeah. Wish it would stay that way.
Well, we're talking about a subject here this morning that we've never talked about, and I mean, Mississippi's #1 for people having to deal with diabetes. But how often do you hear about people that are dealing with pre-diabetes?
Well,
and that's what we're talking about.
Right.
One of the problems is people don't deal with it. You know, and you know, we have hundreds of people contact us various times, and as they show up to be pre-diabetic, and oh yeah, I know that, but they told me don't worry about it. Okay, it's time to worry about it, because if you're pre-diabetic, you're headed down that road. If you don't change something, do something different, yeah, you're going to be diabetic, and that's not going to be a good place. That's for sure.
It's one of the reasons we decided to do the show is because we hear so many people say, well, yeah, I'm pre-diabetic, but that doesn't mean anything. They said that's okay. My doctor said that's fine. And unfortunately, the research coming out is not saying that it's fine. And doctors at the biggest institutions in this country that have done research are showing that you have the same complications a lot of times with pre-diabetes as you have with diabetes. So we wanted to get the word out that it isn't okay to be pre-diabetic.
It's true.
And unfortunately, there are a lot of people around here that are.
Well, we're #1 in diabetes, so
we're
gotta have some
got to be
pre,
#1
Exactly.
in the pre-category.
That's right.
896-0713, 800-349-0713 are our phone lines in which if you want to call in and talk about this subject, or maybe wondering if you are pre-diabetic.
Yeah.
I mean, are there some signs?
Sometimes not, but sometimes there is.
Yeah.
Yeah, typically, one of the better ways to catch it, of course, is obviously the lab work. The hemoglobin A1C is what everybody talks about. And so, typically if you go to your doc and for your yearly checkup and they're not doing the hemoglobin A1C, then you may not know until it's too late, because we see time and time and time again, a person will have a normal fasting blood sugar, and yet their hemoglobin A1C, which is like a 60 to 90 day look at your blood sugar, so it's an average, if you will. And what we're looking at there is they've got normal blood sugar fasting, it's okay, and then when you look at their A1C, it's high, and they're in the pre-diabetes range. So, and they don't know it. They say, oh, my blood sugar's fine, I'm okay. Well, they're really not. And Janine was talking about the researchers that are really looking into this. The UC California, Berkeley's got a big group out there. Dr. Lustig runs that one. And some of the research that's coming out of these various institutions tell us that even if you've got a normal hemoglobin A1C, if it's above 5.5, which is, oh, that's normal. When it goes above that, 5.5 and above, we start doing damage, because that's what it's telling us, is we've got damage to that protein in our body. That's how we kind of look at that average and get an average of it. So even though you're quote unquote normal, you might still be doing some damage to your body.
Now, if you're pre-diabetic, once you cross that line and become full-blown diabetic, is there no turning back?
Oh, no, you can turn
No,
it
you
back.
can turn it back, and we are talking about type 2 diabetes when we're talking about that too. Type 1, you really don't get pre-diabetic. Type 1 just is instant. I mean, you have pancreatic failure, and you're all of a sudden type 1 diabetic. We're not talking about that at all today. We're talking about type 2.
Okay.
And so pre-diabetes is the precursor to type 2 diabetes. But the bad thing is what we hear every day, and we can both say this, is, well, I don't have any of it in my family. And it's like, well, it don't have to be. I mean, yes.
That was going to be my next question.
If it's in your family.
If it's in the family or something like that, should you get checked?
Yes,
or
because if it's in the family, you have a higher chance. But we're seeing day after day after day where people don't have anything in their family and they're pre-diabetic. And, actually, you don't have to just wait. Just because somebody's not in the family, doesn't have it, does not mean you're not going to.
Julie from Socia called and asked, why do diabetics have so many foot problems?
Well, it's back to that hemoglobin A1C, and we talked about the damage, Julie. The issue is, when that blood sugar causes damage. Matter of fact, there's a name for it now. It's called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs, and it does age you faster. There's no doubt. So this AGE, or advanced glycation end product, is what's causing all the nerve damage to the feet. And that's why we have so many foot and leg problems with
And also
diabetics.
circulation.
Yeah.
Circulation tends to go down with diabetes as well. And the foot is one of the farthest points
Right.
from the heart, so you're of course going to have circulation
circulation
problems.
there, yeah.
And when you have poor circulation, then you don't heal. So when there is a problem or a sore or anything comes about, you just don't heal properly either. So, you know, sugar does damage. I think it's gotten so common for people to be diabetic that nobody thinks anything of it anymore.
Well, you know,
And that's what they got to realize, that it's damage in the body.
Yeah, you know, I explain this a lot of times to people, and I always ask them, you know, I said, okay, you've seen a cake being baked, right? You get the batter, and it's kind of a nice, creamy, yellowish color. Put it in
Unless
the
it's
oven.
chocolate.
Unless it's chocolate, right. We're talking about the vanilla cake,
Yeah.
okay? Put it in the oven.
Chocolate's okay.
Chocolate's okay, but I mean, you know, put it in the oven, and what happens to it? It comes out a nice golden brown. All right, that golden brown is glycation.
Yes.
So, okay, you can either, you know, glycate at 350 degrees for 45 minutes, or you can do it at 98.6 over 20 to 30 years. You're going to get the same result.
And then that is damage. That
Damage.
actually browning that you see is damage.
Caramelization. if you will.
Caramelization, right. So, you know, diabetes, that's one reason it's such a big thing. And another thing that we wanted to mention is that, you know, on children, we keep seeing an alarming amount of pre-diabetes in the kids around here.
Down to as low as 7 years old.
Yeah.
Wow. Mary from D'Iberville on the phone with a question for you this morning. Good morning, Mary. What's your question for the doctors?
Yes, I wanted to know how come you never discuss the dangers of a person who is a hypoglycemic?
Hypoglycemia, well, we can talk about that because hypoglycemia, basically, later in life, they can be diabetic.
Especially if they'll call it, you know, that a lot of people, they'll tell you, well, you're reactive hypoglycemic, which means you need to eat sugar all the time. Okay, remember the thing about the cake, you're glycating. And what you're doing is you're just feeding your body more and more sugar. And this is typically what we see. And they say, oh, you've got to eat more frequently. You need to eat less sugar if you're hypoglycemic, because sugar is causing that spike in the insulin, and insulin drops the sugar down. You have low blood sugar, you feel the effects of
Right,
it.
you feel like you're going to pass out.
Right.
You can pass out, actually.
Can.
Get shaky. So there's a lot of problems. We probably should have a whole show on hypoglycemia. So that's a really good idea.
That's a good idea, that's right.
All right, I'll make a note of that. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's, you know, we see this all the time. People say, well, I'm hypoglycemic, I have to eat, you know, constantly. And okay, what do you eat? Carbohydrates, carbohydrates, carbohydrates. Well, if you do that, you're constantly seeing this rise and fall.
Rise
in your
and
blood
fall.
sugar.
So you're always going up and down, and
Yeah.
you never are kind of even. What you want to do is you definitely do want to eat often, but you don't want to eat the carbohydrates and sugar, because then you don't have the spike and you don't have the fall.
You have to get good fats in your diet. That's
Right.
all there is to it.
All right, we're talking about pre-diabetes today, so give us a call, 896-0713, 800-349-0713, and we'll be right back. And welcome back. Our phone lines are open, 896-0713, 800-349-0713. We're talking about pre-diabetes today, so you're welcome to give us a call and ask the doctors a question yourself, or you can pass it along to our operator, and they'll be glad to pass it along to us. What about kids? I mean, are you seeing a lot of problem with kids nowadays?
It's what we call an alarming trend. Okay, I mean, seriously, in medicine research today, they're saying this is an alarming trend. We're seeing younger and younger and younger. Typically, pre-diabetes, you know, used to show up 50s, 60s, you know, up in that range, or maybe even older. Now we're seeing the pre-diabetic tendencies, even in as young. We've had 7-year-olds.
We've had them all in.
Really?
We have.
7?
Yes.
7.
We actually have small kids, and when you read about pre-diabetes, they'll always talk about weight. You know, being overweight predisposes you, and it does.
It does.
But we're finding people that are not overweight being pre-diabetic. So you don't have to be overweight to be pre-diabetic, and that's one of the, I think, a problem, because the people that aren't overweight think they can eat what they want. So they eat all the sugar they want because they don't have a weight problem.
And we're seeing more and more of a complication of this, and it's called the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, fatty liver. I mean, that's one thing that we're seeing huge amounts of. And we see a lot of these people, like Janine said, they're thin. Oh, I'm okay. I'm fine. Well, when we look at the liver, matter of fact, just had one recently where the lady, she's tall, thin, blood sugar's okay, but what happens is the body starts storing this excess sugar. The first thing it does is starts to store it in the liver because it's got excess, and that starts there. And they cut a term for it. So if you're thin and have that, it's called TOFI. Thin on the outside, fat on the inside. And we see more and more of this thin on the outside, fat on the inside issue more and more today.
Yeah.
All right, Jean from Socia is on the phone with us now with a question. Good morning, Jean. What's your question for the doctors?
Yes, once you've been diagnosed with prediabetes, what should you be doing? They gave me medicine and said take 2 a day, and that was it.
Okay, the big thing is diet change. Now, if you come by, we have a sheet, and if you eat like that, we have many, many people that can reverse it, because you're at a point where you don't want to wait until you get it. And like I tell people, medication alone, whether it's prescription medication or whether it's supplements that we use, is not enough if you don't change your diet. So you've got to change what you put in your mouth.
Yeah, the thing is, Gene, you know, and this is where you have to look at what caused it. And what caused it is what you're eating. Now, and we get a lot of people who say, well, I really don't eat that much carbohydrates. You know, if you'll take a diary, a day in the life of Gene, okay, and just write down everything you put in your mouth for a day, it will scare you. I mean, because people don't realize that, oh, well, I didn't realize, well, that's a carbohydrate. Oh, I didn't realize that's a
Yeah,
carbohydrate.
we'll have people do it for a week and bring it to us, and
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
circle everything they probably shouldn't be eating. Sometimes that's easier because you can't always remember what you've eaten, and you think, well, I don't eat much of that. Just do it for a week. Bring it by, and we'll go through it and tell you what you're doing wrong. Because there are definitely diet changes, number one. Now, exercise is something else you can be doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Insulin resistance, which is what prediabetes and even diabetes is, definitely also is helped with exercise. So exercise and diet is your number one.
That's it.
I mean, it really is.
And
And you can change it. You don't have to become diabetic because you're pre-diabetic now.
Right, and you can turn it around, and if you're, you know, diligent enough with the diet and exercise and lifestyle changes, you can turn it around to where you probably don't have to take the medication anymore either. You can reverse that pre-diabetic state.
can.
You really can.
And the food on that dietary list is really, really good. I mean, it's a low glycemic diet, and there's a lot of great food on there. I'm
Well,
telling
yeah,
you.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's food that you eat now, I promise you. You just don't eat enough of it.
You just kind of
Yeah.
cut out some of the things you probably shouldn't have.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you got to change from fried chicken to baked chicken or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to eat your meats, you know, your proteins. They're a good source, but we don't want to overdo the protein. That's one of the problems that came up with the Atkins diet that so many people had. They didn't get quite enough, you know, stuff with their just excess protein. Our body can actually take excess protein and turn it into sugar. That's called gluconeogenesis. And, you know, our body's really good at doing this stuff. So we got to be real careful what
You
we
want
feed
a
it.
balanced diet, and you want
Right.
more of your carbohydrates need to come more from your vegetables.
Complex.
And you can actually also from the non-sugar fruits, which people don't think of, tomatoes, squash, avocado, they're actually fruit. So, but it's the non-sugar fruit. Too much of your sugar fruit, even though it's a natural sugar, can still increase the blood sugar. And we find a lot of people that are doing the smoothies with huge amounts of fruit in it are actually becoming pre-diabetic because of that.
One of the things that comes up with fruit, and when you look at table sugar, you know, the white stuff that everybody puts in their coffee or whatever, all right, 50% of it is glucose. So when we measure your blood sugar medically, we're measuring glucose, how much of that, because that's what your body uses as it needs it. The other 50% of it is fructose. Now that's the fructose is that sweet stuff that you get with those sweet fruits.
All right, James from Biloxi on the phone has got a great story regarding his diabetes. Go
Okay.
ahead, James, tell us.
How you doing this morning?
Fine, how are you?
Great.
How about you?
Doing okay. I survived. I survived last year 3 mild diabetic comas, and I happened to get my type 2 diabetes reversed.
You have to, or you have?
No, he did.
Oh, you did?
I have reversed it, and you announced earlier something called AG, I think.
AGE.
AGE.
What's that called? What's the actual medical term of it?
Advanced glycation end products.
Oh.
In other words, that's when you're having glycation, you're damaging tissue, and that damaged tissue is advanced glycation end products.
Okay. Well,
So how did you reverse yours, James?
I changed my diet, my eating habits, and everything. I stopped eating breads, pastas,
Yep, that's exactly what you got to do.
and fried foods.
That's what we tell everybody to do. We tell them they have to change their diet, and bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, sugar,
Yeah.
and desserts, and of course the sugary drinks are really out.
Yeah. Very
Thank,
good.
Yeah,
thank
that
you for
includes
calling.
James.
Good. That's awesome. Great story. Jennifer from Moss Point on the phone right now. Good morning, Jennifer. What's your question for the doctors?
Good morning. I have, it seems to me, the reverse effect. For instance, my blood sugar fasting was 153 yesterday morning. Well, on Saturday, I had a well-balanced meal, baked chicken, vegetables, etc. for dinner. And I stayed away from the sugary fruit that evening. Well, yesterday I went to a party, a pageant, and ate for dinner all junk food, you know, and last night I even snacked on cookies. I woke up this morning and my blood sugar was 123. So what I've noticed is that when I do not eat enough and no sugars or no carbs, then my blood sugar goes high. And I don't understand why it's spiking. And I talked to my diet center about it, the diabetes center, I'm sorry. And I just don't understand. It's like a reverse effect on my sugar. And I'm taking Jardiance, the medication.
Jennifer, if we would actually check your insulin. Your insulin is the problem. When you eat something that's sweet, it spikes insulin. When we do a blood test, and this is something we do all the time, we check the fasting blood sugar, we check the hemoglobin A1C to see, you know, where you are in that pre-diabetes thing or diabetes thing, and then we look at your insulin, fasting insulin, and I'll bet you your fasting insulin would be scary.
Yeah, and a lot of people, what happens if they eat the sugar, and this is a short-term thing you're seeing, when you eat the sugar, you make more insulin, which might make the sugar go a little bit farther down, but that insulin is damaging cells as well. And it doesn't necessarily mean your A1C is better, just the fasting is better.
Right.
But over time, people like that, they go severe diabetic. They're the ones that, within weeks can actually be kind of halfway diabetic, and then all of a sudden they're severe uncontrolled.
Right.
So you really shouldn't do the sugar, and you should do it, and when you're going back and forth and bouncing, eating okay one day and nothing but sugar the next day, it's really not good for the body.
No.
But if you come by, we'll give you one of those sheets that kind of tells you what to stay on. And you do want some carbohydrates from vegetables. Vegetables are carbohydrates, but it's the right kind.
Yeah.
So you have to we're not saying no carbohydrates, we're saying the right kind.
All right, stay tuned for more of your calls in this week's special. We'll be right back. And welcome back to our Monday morning live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy. I'm Jim Tabor, along with Drs. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctors Nutrition over in Gulfport on Cowan Road, south of Pass Road. A lot of calls this morning regarding pre-diabetes. Beth from Lumberton is on the phone with us at this time. What's your question, Beth?
Yes, I have been watching my carbs and eating low glycemic vegetables, and I have also been eating like low carb protein. And since I've done this, my numbers are great. I've had to take my pre-diabetic shots, you know, before my meals or anything, and my long-acting shot in the middle, you know, for the night, and it works great. You know, I'm just wondering, not high protein now, just moderate protein.
Right.
Does that harm your kidneys?
Moderate shouldn't. No.
Moderate, if you don't already have a kidney problem. Now, when you take somebody that already has severe kidney disease, they can't hardly handle any protein. You know, they might have to go real low protein. But when you have normal kidney function now and you're controlling your sugar really well, you should be fine with moderate protein. It's just actually that sugar being high over long periods of time is what damages the kidneys usually in the first place.
Yeah.
So, but you can get to a point to where you can't handle as much protein, but as long as your kidney function is normal, you're okay with moderate protein.
All right.
Very
Thanks
good.
for the call,
Thanks, Beth.
896-0713 or 800-349-0713. We have another caller on the phone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Walter Hagan. I got a question concerning my diet. I've been told that I should modify my diet, but when you're on a fixed income, and I know you hear that a lot, you can't always buy the stuff you need because produce is going up, and I'm not trying to fill you with a lot of stuff you've already heard, but when you can't afford it, how you going to go about doing what you're supposed to do if you just don't have the money?
Actually, I mean, I found, you know, most people eat out, and you can eat better at home, even with the perfect diet, than you can spending all the money eating out. If you do lean meat and vegetables, you can do meals for a couple dollars. So I mean, we hear that a lot, and you don't have to go out and have eat less food. That's what we tell a lot of people. People eat too much to begin with. You don't eat 3 chicken breasts when you eat a half of one.
Right.
So eat less food, but eat better food. That's what we always recommend when people can't afford to eat. But you should be eating less food anyway, even if you can't afford it. So I mean, don't you agree?
I think that's ultimately, and I hear this a lot from people, that'll say the same thing. Well, I'm on a fixed income or whatever. And you'll say, okay, then you just have to budget a little bit differently. But what you have to do is get that protein source, which is a meat. It could be fish, chicken, whatever. Beef, whatever you can find. But get your protein. But we don't need much. Like she and I yesterday, for our dinner, we had steak. Okay, took a 6-ounce steak, cut it in half.
Right.
Each one of us had 3 ounces. Now that's not a lot of meat, but I promise you, if you take that coupled with some vegetables, like I think we had asparagus and so on.
Yeah.
You do that, you've got a good balanced meal, and it doesn't cost an arm and a leg, because
Right.
that is a problem.
And you could buy eggs for breakfast. Eggs are actually very inexpensive. You can actually eat breakfast for $3 or $4 for
Much
the whole
cheaper.
week.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you just have to look at what you're getting and don't get all the junk to go with it, and you don't have to have a 5-course meal.
That's true.
Eat what you can on your budget, and even go fishing. We're in an area where you can go catch your own fish, clean them yourself, and then that way it don't cost anything. So you can do it. It's just about changing a little bit and stop eating out.
Yeah.
All right. Rebecca from Gulfport on the phone. Good morning, Rebecca. What's your question for the doctors?
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
My question is, in managing your carbohydrate protein intake, where does the grain quinoa play a role? Is it will that spike your glycemic index, or is that one of the more preferable grains to be on?
Here's something we see, Rebecca. Everybody's different. I mean, all three of us is totally different. You may be able to tolerate a little quinoa. I can't. Janine can.
Yeah.
Okay.
It
I can't.
depends on the person. If he eats any grains whatsoever, his A1C will start going up.
Yeah.
Mine will not. So everybody's a little bit different. Now, quinoa is better than some of the other grains, in the the glycemic index. But when you're going, we recommend a grain-free diet.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of research just coming out on the grains increasing inflammation as a whole, and so that's any grain. But it is better than other grains for glycemic control.
And here's the thing, Rebecca. What you have to do is you have to figure out, can you do it or not? Because like I say, I can't. She can.
And the markers you want to look for, we haven't even mentioned triglycerides today, and we should.
Should.
People with high triglycerides don't handle sugar properly or grains properly. So if you actually have high triglycerides, you might not be able to handle any. But if your triglycerides are normal, sugar's normal, insulin's normal, you may be able to.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Rebecca, for the call. Got about a minute left. We got to talk about the specials.
We haven't got that.
Because this is something that we can do. We do the it's berberine max. Berberines are plant chemicals that in a lot of different plants that actually help us control that, or insulin resistance type thing. And then the GSF is our glucose support formula. Great, because it's got a lot of stuff in it to protect you from those AGEs.
Right, and it's got the cinnamon and the chromium and vanadium and gymnema sylvestre and
alpha-lipoic
acid and a lot of the things that you see for insulin resistance.
Exactly.
Which is what pre-diabetes and diabetes is, the severe insulin resistance.
Yeah.
So we got both of those are the two products that we use mostly. We have almost everything in them separately as well, but those are the two we use the most for helping blood sugar control.
All right, we left several people holding on the phones this week, and we're sorry we couldn't get to you. Next week will be open line Monday, so please call us back.
Right.
We'll be back in here next Monday morning. It's the first week of May.
Yeah.
So be sure that you call us back next Monday morning. We'll be back in here tonight. Hope you have a wonderful week. Thanks for being with us.